Welcome to the Resolve to Read podcast. My name is Jennifer, and I'm here to help you read through the entire Bible in 2026. Now, before we get started with our reading for today, I do want to address an issue. Though it's not really an issue, it's just a different way of doing things. Some chronological readings are going to take you very chronologically through the historical timeline, meaning that when they get to this point in Genesis, they're going to jump to the book of Job. And you may not know who Job is. He was a man who lived during the time of the Table of Nations, which we read about yesterday. Job was tested by Satan, and God allowed Satan to test Job through a lot of trials and suffering. And then at the end, Job comes to recognize God's sovereignty, his power, and his righteousness. And while Job is an historical figure who lived during this time period, the book of Job was written as a poetic piece. Its literary style is not historical, but rather poetic and even theatrical in nature. So just like we wouldn't take a psalm that was written about the historical events that happened in Genesis and then take that psalm and put it in Genesis, we would rather put it when it was written so that we can understand why it was so important during that time of history. So later on, we're going to read the book of Job, but it's going to be during a time period when it was more likely written and used as a way to encourage the people of Israel as they go through their own trials. Another reason why we've chosen not to include the book of Job at this point is because we don't want to disrupt the flow of the book of Genesis. It's interesting to note that Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy were originally just one book called the Pentateuch. And this book formed the foundation of the Jewish faith, which also forms the foundation of the Christian faith. And most theologians agree that Moses was the one who wrote the Pentateuch. And so we need to think about this book from his perspective as the author. The way that he compiled the stories, the way that he brought it all together, even the poetic themes that are included. So I hope you have your physical daily Bible in chronological order so you can visually see where all the poetry is throughout the Pentateuch. And there's a lot. And those are important moments that I want you to take notice of. And so Moses is wandering through the desert. He's taken the people of Israel into the desert to find the promised land. And think about it. Adam and Eve, they had the perfect land and they lost it. And now we're on a journey to return home. And that's what the story is about. So while other plans are going to take you on a detour to the story of Job, we've decided to continue with the story of finding the promised land. And this is going to form the foundation for the rest of Scripture. So let's get started with today's reading. Got something to say. This is your Resolve to Read daily reading. It's January 5th, and we're reading from the book of Genesis. Yahuwah had said to Abram, "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram left as Yahuwah had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan, and they arrived there. Abram traveled through the land as far as the site of the great tree of Moreh at Shechem. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. Yahuwah appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built an altar there to Yahuwah, who had appeared to him. From there, he went on toward the hills east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to Yahuwah and called on the name of Yahuwah. Then Abram set out and continued toward the Negev. Now there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a while because the famine was severe. As he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, "I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife.' Then they will kill me, but will let you live. Say you are my sister, so that I will be treated well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you." When Abram came to Egypt, the Egyptians saw that she was a very beautiful woman. And when Pharaoh's officials saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh, and she was taken into his palace. He treated Abram well for her sake, and Abram acquired sheep and cattle, male and female donkeys, men servants and maidservants, and camels. But Yahuwah inflicted serious diseases on Pharaoh and his household because of Abram's wife Sarai. So Pharaoh summoned Abram. "What have you done to me?" he said. "Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say, 'She is my sister,' so that I took her to be my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go." Then Pharaoh gave orders about Abram to his men, and they sent him on his way with his wife and everything he had. So Abram went up from Egypt to the Negev with his wife and everything he had, and Lot went with him. Abram had become very wealthy in livestock and in silver and gold. From the Negev, he went from place to place until he came to Bethel, to the place between Bethel and Ai, where his tent had been earlier, and where he had first built an altar. There Abram called on the name of Yahuwah. Now Lot, who was moving about with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, but the land could not support them while they stayed together, for their possessions were so great that they were not able to stay together. And quarreling arose between Abram's herdsmen and the herdsmen of Lot. The Canaanites and Perizzites were also living in the land at that time. So Abram said to Lot, "Let's not have any quarreling between you and me, or between your herdsmen and mine, for we are brothers. Is not the whole land before you? Let's part company. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left." Lot looked up and saw that the whole plain of the Jordan was well watered, like the garden of Yahuwah, like the land of Egypt, toward Zoar. This was before Yahuwah destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself the whole plain of the Jordan and set out toward the east. The two men parted company. Abram lived in the land of Canaan, while Lot lived among the cities of the plain and pitched his tents near Sodom. Now, the men of Sodom were wicked and were sinning greatly against Yahuwah. Yahuwah said to Abram after Lot had parted from him, "Lift up your eyes from where you are and look north and south, east and west. All the land that you see I will give to you and your offspring forever. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if anyone could count the dust, then your offspring could be counted. Go, walk through the length and breadth of the land, for I am giving it to you." So Abram moved his tents and went to live near the great trees of Mamre at Hebron, where he built an altar to Yahuwah. At this time, Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goim, went to war against Bera, king of Sodom, Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemaber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar. All these later kings joined forces in the valley of Siddim, the Salt Sea. For 12 years, they had been subject to Kedorlaomer, but in the 13th year, they rebelled. In the 14th year, Kedorlaomer and the kings allied with him went out and defeated the Rephaites in Ashtoreth Karnaim, the Zuzites in Ham, the Emites in Shava Kiriathaim, and the Horites in the hill country of Seir, as far as El Paran near the desert. Then they turned back and went to En Mishpat, that is Kadesh. And they conquered the whole territory of the Amalekites, as well as the Amorites, who were living in Hazazon Tamar. Then the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is, Zoar, marched out and drew up their battle lines in the valley of Siddim against Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, Tidal, king of Goim, Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Ariak, king of Elasar, 4 kings against 5. Now, the valley of Siddim was full of tar pits, and when the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some of the men fell into them, and the rest fled to the hills. The 4 kings seized all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their food. Then they went away. They also carried off Abram's nephew Lot and his possessions, since he was living in Sodom. One who had escaped came and reported this to Abram the Hebrew. Now Abram was living near the great trees of Mamre the Amorite, a brother of Eshcol and Aner, all of whom were allied with Abram. When Abram heard that his relative had been taken captive, he called out the 318 trained men born in his household and went in pursuit as far as Dan. During the night, Abram divided his men to attack them, and he routed them, pursuing them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus. He recovered all the goods and brought back his relative Lot and his possessions, together with the women and the other people. After Abram returned from defeating Kedorlaomer and the kings allied with him, the king of Sodom came out to meet him in the valley of Shavah, that is, the king's valley. The king of Sodom said to Abram, "Give me the people and keep the goods for yourself." But Abram said to the king of Sodom, "I have raised my hand to Yahuwah, God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and have taken an oath that I will accept nothing belonging to you, not even a thread or thong of a sandal, so that you will never be able to say, 'I made Abram rich.' I will accept nothing but what my men have eaten and the share that belongs to the men who went with me, to Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. Let them have their share." Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High, and he blessed Abram, saying, "Blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hand." Then Abram gave him 1/10 of everything. This is the word of Yahuwah. Thanks be to God.